radio stuff and things like that.
That's
And
exciting.
some journalists, for some magazine,
That's
but not really
exciting.
podcasts. Yeah.
Yeah, no, podcasts are really interesting because it kind of feels more like a free flow conversation sometimes, which is nice.
Right.
And I'm really happy that you took the time to speak with me today. I want to talk a little bit about, of course, Shakespears Sister, and also the new album you have coming out called Gold, which I'm really excited to tell everybody about.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, some of our listeners may not know how much songwriting you have done for yourself and other artists as well, and that you're very well established as a writer. Does your writing partnership with Richard Feldman still exist?
I haven't really written anything with Richard in, God, it's been quite a while.
Mm.
The last time I actually worked with him was on a project I was doing with someone else where he was producing it, but we haven't really written anything in a long time. I think since it was after the Shakespeare Sister days, but I think when I did one of my blues albums called The Upside of Being Down, I wrote a record with him and Toots from Toots and the Maytals, wrote a song
Cool.
called Singing the Blues. And it was a really cool song. We did it completely differently on my album, but yeah, that's the last time we did any writing. And that was in 2006, I want to say. But I saw him a few times during the pandemic, but he and his family got COVID, and I don't know. Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't really for the last maybe 5 months. But we speak every once in a while.
How have you been doing through this situation with the COVID?
Well, we've been lucky. We've been, as some people say, complying is a bad word, but to me, it's cooperation.
Mm-hmm.
Cooperating, I think, will help get this thing under control. And so far, my husband and my son and I have been okay.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten the virus. I realize it can happen to anyone, even if you're vaccinated.
True.
But we've been lucky. We've been super careful, and we're vaxxers and maskers, and ever since it all started, we were our son was living away from us, so I was concerned about him. He was in Arizona, and very worried about him. But he was really smart, and we've been really smart and really careful. So thankfully, we've been okay. Thank you.
I'm really glad to hear that. Yeah, no, definitely. And it'll be interesting because we really want to get back to live music being the norm again as well. So we got to get those shows started up again. What's one of the favorite songs that you wrote for another artist? Are there any you regret giving away?
Any that I regret giving away? For another artist. Well, that's an interesting question. I don't regret giving any of them away because they're all happening in the moment. I don't think I was thinking, damn, I wish I kept that for myself, because I did that a lot with some of my own songs. I got asked by publishers to give away, I have so and so would like to record your song. Do you want to? And I was like, no, that's for me. And in hindsight, it was probably foolish on my part, because if I would have had a well-known entity recording one of my songs, it would have only brought more interest to me. But I always perceive myself as an artist in my own right, not just a songwriter. And I always had aspirations to do my own records, which I have done. This will be my 8th solo album that I'm releasing now. So I was a little bit stingy about wanting to give my songs away to other people because I wanted to do them, in hindsight, maybe it would have been a better idea to be more open to that. But anyway, I can't change the past. That's what I did, and that's what I thought. And some of those songs I really loved. There was a group in the 80s called, I think they were called Animotion.
I remember the name.
Yeah. And they wanted to do a song of mine that I really loved. And I was like, no, no, they can't do my song. So yeah. Anyway, it's just the way it happened. And I never actually released the song. So,
No.
that's how these things go. You never know. You have all
Hmm.
these dreams and these aspirations to do something and with all the best intentions.
Hmm.
And sometimes they just don't happen. Or another wave comes along that you decide to ride for a while. All these opportunities come your way and you make choices as an artist and as a writer and
Hmm.
see where they might take you in order to get you to your destination. Sometimes they don't always get you right to that destination. You go like from point A to point C. That's where you
Hmm.
want to go, point A to point Z, but you end up going to all points in between. At least that's what I've done. It's been quite a varied career.
Absolutely. And it's nice. The journey in itself is nice to enjoy while it's happening too, right? So
Yeah.
take it in.
Well, it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure.
The first album that came out as Shakespears Sister was Sacred Heart, correct?
That's
And
right.
it did quite well in the UK. Absolutely. And what did you like most about that album?
Hmm. Well, you brought up my friend Richard Feldman, who I met when I moved to Tulsa. Like the first day I moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, everyone's like, "Why Tulsa?" Well, it was a big music mecca at the time with Shelter Records, Leon Russell. But anyway, I met my friend Richard the day I moved to Tulsa because he was in Leon Russell's studio working, and I sang on a few of his songs, and we've been friends ever since. Um, he moved out to LA about a year after I did because I lived in Tulsa for 5 years, and through that connection, I worked with Clapton and lots of great people, and Leon Russell,
Mhm.
and so Richard moved out here as well. He had a studio in his home studio, and he introduced himself to. He got these new neighbors. One day he noticed that he got new neighbors, and it was Dave Stewart of the Eurythmics and Siobhan Fahey of Shakespears Sister or of Bananarama at the time.
Mhm.
And he is the one who called me into, after he wrote with her for a while, he said, "Hey, you should come over and sing. I think your voices would work really well together. You can play instruments and write with us and do whatever you want." And so that's how it started. And I think my favorite thing about it was trying new things. I mean,
Mhm.
what we were doing at the time, it was really different for all of us, not just for Siobhan, because she was at the helm and wanted to do something different.
Mhm.
Richard and I wrote some, bluesy kind of stuff, but some of the stuff we did was more experimental.
Mhm.
Um, but with Siobhan, it was an opportunity for us all to try something different. She wanted to do something different from Bananarama. Richard was doing it, was being more experimental with his production, and I was getting to sing and play more, more of the instruments, guitar and harmonica and
Mhm.
program, whatever I did, whatever I brought to it. Um, so it was really fun experimenting, and doing all these interesting things that were not really the norm for what I had done before.
So it must have been exciting being in a project where did you get to feel like you really got to experiment on that album itself and the second album as well?
Yeah, well, just the nature of it was experimental. And working with Siobhan was different, than I
Mhm.
had experienced before. Being in a band situation with just her and I. Although initially I wasn't really a part of the band. I was just considered a hired hand. Um, but it wasn't until the second album that it was official that I was a 50% member. And
Mhm.
yeah, we got to do some really, really fun experimental things. But it was just she and I when we started that album in my home studio, which was about just a quarter mile down from where I am right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we wrote everything there. We were inspired by this B movie called Cat Women from the Moon, and wanted to superimpose ourselves into it. Dave turned us on to the movie, and a lot of the songs
Mhm.
were inspired by scenes from the movie. So yeah, it was experimental And I feel like that what we did, especially on the second album, was a lot of she and I experimenting, trying different things. And we got a lot of help, of course, from some great musicians. And Dave himself would pop in every once in a while and hear what we were doing and help out occasionally. Like he helped write Stay. Yeah.
Now, obviously this song takes off and it's massive even to this day. It's, you know, it's such a huge, huge song. And how did you create the concept for that video? I was just watching it again last night just to refresh myself. And I was thinking, is Siobhan essentially the Grim Reaper?
Well, she's the angel of death. And here's what happened. That when we wrote that song, you know, it was like I said, we wanted to buy the rights of the film and superimpose ourselves into it. And take on the characters of these cat women that were on the moon, right? And in this one scene, the character that I was going to portray, these earthlings came to the moon to visit, and my character fell in love with one of them. So in this one scene, I was pleading with him not to go back to Earth and stay with me. So we started writing that song. Dave came over one morning to my house, Dave and Siobhan, and said, I got this idea. You know how you do these ballads at our parties? Well, I got this idea for a song for you. And he modeled this song for me, and he sang the verse. And when he, in the B section, he got to the chorus, and I just started singing, stay with me, stay with me. And then we finished it. And the song, some people weren't happy with the song. And especially Siobhan, she didn't like the song. I didn't know that she didn't like it initially. So we rewrote it several times. But ultimately what happened was we went back to the original when Chris Thomas was actually asked to produce it. And nobody could really, and then London Records insisted it was going to be the second single on the album, which we were all surprised about. I mean, when we first wrote it, and we played it over at Dave and Siobhan's house with Chris Thomas was there producing a record that Dave was doing called Spiritual Cowboys, and we played it because we would go over there every day after we were writing and play our little cassettes, you know, our demos of everything, and we played Stay, and Chris Thomas, you know, he's this iconic producer. He's produced The Pretenders, In Excess, I mean, Pulp, I mean, some incredible stuff. He jumped up and he went, #1 smash. And Siobhan and I were looking at each other like, what? Anyway, so I digressed a bit. They asked Chris to come in and produce the single, and he wanted all of the vocals and work that I did on my little home studio. So I sent him everything, and he mixed it. But your question was about the video. Nobody could come up with an idea. I mean, the song is odd. You know, here I am singing about, oh, please stay with me. In the second verse, if you don't stay with me, I'm going to, you know, do these horrible things. And then in the middle eight, where Siobhan comes in. So there was this juxtaposition of, you know, good and bad, sweet and you know, angry, this longing and this kind of lust for, you know, wanting to take this guy away, you know, kill him and take him away, wanted him to die. So we were talking about ideas, nothing seemed right. And my husband actually, who was a video director and videographer, came up with the concept that I am singing to someone that I love who is dying, and Siobhan is the angel of death. And she comes into the song coming to take him away. And then she and I have this fight, you know, this battle ensues, and in the end, life wins. Yeah. So we told Sophie Muller, who directed all our videos so brilliantly, and she was a good friend and almost like a third member of the band. She understood us really well, and she and Siobhan were like best friends. we told Sophie, you know, that my husband had an idea, and she came over when he told her about the idea, and she was like, love it. So then she, you know, applied all her magic to it, you know, put it in the setting of us being on the moon, you know, with the comets going by every once in a while, and we're on like on the space station. So yeah, that's how it all came about.
It's a great opening shot too with those comments and whatnot. It really catches your attention right off the bat. I like that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now, what album track from Hormonally Yours would you say is one of your favorites that you'd wish maybe had been a single?
Well, Are We in Love Yet? I always love that song. It's really simple, but it's very cool. It's very funky, yet it's rock and roll at the same time. And in fact, it was talked about that being a single at one time, but it never happened. I loved it, and everyone seems to love it when we do it. Even on the reunion tour that we did in 2019, people love the song. It's one of my favorites. It's very Sly Stone, you know.
We'll definitely play a clip of it on the show so everyone gets a chance to know and love it. And at what point during that relationship did you decide to do the first solo album? And was that the album called Jewel?
Right. Well, when I signed the contract with Siobhan, it was written in my contract that I would be able to do a solo album. There was no definite time when that was allotted to be. However, during all the promotion for Hormonally Yours, Siobhan said, you know, after this, I want to take a break and be with my family. You can do your own album then. I'm like, okay, great. So while we were on tour doing, you know, shows for Hormonally Yours, I was writing for my album that I knew I was going to do next. I knew that she was going to be taking time off to be with her family. So that's really simply how it happened.
And that was the album Jewel? Was that the first one?
Yeah.
Okay. And tell me about working with and recording a duet with Elton John.
Yeah.
How did that come into play?
Huh?
How did that come into play?
Well, it was because I was working with Chris Thomas on my solo album, on my Jewel album. And, we were like very early days doing my album, about 2 weeks into it. And he got a call from Elton because he knew Elton and had worked with him many times before. And Elton said, hey man, can you produce my duets for one album? This is this duets album that he was doing with lots of different artists that he was selecting. And Chris said, well, I can't because I'm doing Marcy's album. And he said, oh, well, I'd love to do a song with her. Have her pick a song. So Chris presented that to me, and I was quite honestly flattered.
Yeah.
You know, I used to go see him play when I was like, you know, 16 years old with fake ID. I'd go to these, you know, clubs and go see him play all the time. So I was a huge fan. I had his albums, and so I suggested that we did the Border song because I love that song. And I love an Aretha Franklin version of that song, which was very, very soulful. And I was hoping that we could do it kind of like that, but he didn't want to do that song. So he suggested, you know, come up with something else. So I suggested then, well, how about a Motown classic? How about Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing by Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell? So that's what we ended up doing. And we laid down the track, me and the guys that were working on my album with Chris, and Elton came in and sang it with me, which was a real treat. And it ended up, initially, you know, it was only going to be on Elton's album, but London Records also wanted it on my album. And I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. Yeah, why not? I mean, have Elton John and I doing a duet on my album. That's great. And I was truly grateful for it. At the time, I was thinking, well, does this really go with the rest of my album? But then I was like, what are you, stupid? This is Elton John. This is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. And we got to, we did Top of the Pops because it was a single, obviously. And we did Top of the Pops to promote it. And then we went to Paris to do a show, which was stopped by this group called ACT UP. They were like this there were these HIV activists, and they stopped the show. So we never got to go, we never got to do the song. They stopped the show at about 8, and we were waiting around till around midnight, and we were all like backstage. Liza Minnelli was there, and she was completely drunk out of her mind by midnight. And then Elton said, I've got to go. I have to catch Concord to go to New York tomorrow. So he left, and we never got to do that performance. But he was really wonderful to work with, and wonderful to meet.
What an experience that would have been.
Yeah.
And with you and Siobhan, and you hadn't seen each other in 25 years, and you came back together in 2019. What was the catalyst there that drove you to reunite?
Well, in 2018, see, I didn't know about this, but my husband was really sneaky. He had a clandestine meeting with Siobhan in around 2012 to kind of see where she was at. I had reached out to her over the years saying, hey man, if you want to get together and talk about it, maybe we can work it out. Maybe we can be friends. Maybe we'll still be enemies. I don't know, but let's get together and talk. And somebody gave me her email address. And once I had a response from her that said, and I said, look, I don't know what you're so upset about, because a friend of mine told me they saw her and she was saying all these things about me. And I was like, okay, come on, this has got to stop. Or at least, let's sit down and talk about it and have it out. End up as friends or, not. So I said, I don't know what I did, but I would really like to sit down and talk with you. And in fact, one of the last things she said to me before the band split up was, one day I'd like to sit down with you and talk to you and have a cup of tea and be your friend. And that's pretty much it, verbatim, right?
Oh, wow.
Didn't quite go that way, unfortunately. But so I contacted her, and she said, oh, in so many words, she said, oh yeah, well, I've left all that behind me. But obviously she didn't. She said, oh, well, sometimes I get to LA, so maybe I'll reach out when I'm there. But, then I guess it was 6 years later, my husband, because he had this meeting with her, never told me about it until after the fact, and realized that now she is not ready to talk to you. My husband got a call from her manager, and he said, just wondering if I could talk to Marcy about possibly setting up a meeting between her and Siobhan to just have a chat. And my husband told me about it. He got the call, and he said, you will never believe the call I just got. I'm like, wow, that's unusual. Okay. So I said, sure. And then I had a chat with him, and he said, I'd like to set up this meeting with you and Siobhan, just to have a chat and see about potentially, well, first of all, see if you could even be in the room together, and see what comes from that. Maybe doing like a tour or something. So I said, okay. I didn't really know what to expect, but I always joke about it when people ask me. I said, I brought my boxing gloves. I kept them in the car just in case. It didn't come to that, but I'll tell you what was really interesting about it was that she started kind of relaying all these things that were her perceptions of what happened. And it was great to be able to go, well, no, that's not what happened. Here's what happened from my side of the story. And then vice versa, she said that to me as well. So we were able to clear up misconceptions. And basically what it was, there were a lot of people in between us stopping the flow of communication, which didn't really help. She had her own managers, and believe it or not, I had my own manager. I had somebody looking out for me, because when I initially started out with Shakespears Sister, her management was not looking out for me. Like they left me stranded at hotels and not paid for the bills. And I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. This is really amateur. So I need somebody to look out for me. So I understand how that could have been a problem, you know, but it's what I felt was necessary because I needed to look out for myself because nobody else was. So yeah, it was really good to be able to go, well, no, that's not exactly what happened. She said to me, what was your idea? You wanted to write a song called Stay. I'm like, no, it was not my idea. You and your husband came over to my house that morning, that Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. and woke me up. And Dave said, hey, I have this great idea for a song for you to sing for the album. And like I told you, I listened to it and we just started writing it. So I got to clear that up. It was not my idea and I didn't insist upon it. It was just, you know, a song that took on a life of its own. And then the label wanted it to be a single, which we were all surprised about. Siobhan wasn't happy about it, but then it became our biggest hit. And, you know, it's just really a shame that at the time, because I always call it the best of times and the worst of times, like the F. Scott Fitzgerald book, you know, because things between us were so bad. It was really bad. I can understand it on one hand, but on the other, if we both could have been more grateful about this incredible journey that we were about to go on, because it was a real journey. And this song, like, was a record. I think it was a record-breaking #1 for a female band up until maybe last year. You know, it was held the longest-running #1 for 8 weeks.
That's incredible.
It was incredible. I mean, we were surprised. You know, it just kept climbing up the charts, and then we were doing this big show, Top of the Pops, which is like, I don't know if you're in Canada, right?
I'm in Canada. Yeah, we've heard of it, but we don't have it airing here.
Right. Well, you probably have a similar show where every week you'd have top 40 bands on doing their songs.
Yeah, we did, but you know, I think there's not a lot for music TV anymore. Have you noticed that? Like we used to have a whole station like that was much like MTV called Much Music. Doesn't play music anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Same with MTV here. It's so bizarre, isn't it? A lot of reality TV shows.
I mean, I think the whole concept of a variety show that was really prominent in like 70s, 80s, 90s, we don't have much of that now, except maybe some of the afternoon talk shows. They usually have musical guests.
Yeah, I never watched those. And then we have the night show, the late night shows as well that have musical guests on. But
I like watching that Graham Norton. I catch him on YouTube.
Yeah, he's funny. He's great. Yeah, we did that show, went for our reunion, Siobhan and I. We did that back in 2019.
Yeah. So once you guys had that chat and you got it all out in the air and kind of hopefully cleansed the palate at that time, then is that when you decided, hey, let's do this again?
Well, the first meeting, I have a hard time. I have a hard time lying. Oh yeah, that was really great. I don't know. My mother was like one of the most honest people I ever met, and really,
it's a good thing.
Well, I don't know. Yes and no, but yeah.
Some people don't appreciate bluntness sometimes, like, or when some people don't want to be called out on their truth.
Yeah.
So it can be tough. I understand that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody likes you. It's hard to not get defensive, but sometimes it's maybe the only way to move forward, you know.
True.
So yeah, I would say that that meeting for me was, okay, well, we got to clear that stuff up. But Siobhan made it quite clear at the end of the meeting, if we do anything further, she said, I have to be the front person. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not sure exactly what that means because she always was the front person. It was always her band. I just sang one song. That was the biggest hit. And I never had a problem with that, you know. And I appreciated all the attention we got. And because of, her, fame with Bananarama. So I was like, all right, well, I don't know what that means exactly. But so initially it was thought, well, maybe we'll do a reunion tour. But then this fortuitous a moment came along when that summer I met with her in May of 2018, and that summer I was going to England to do a residency at a cool club in Canary Wharf called Boysdale, which Jules Holland is like a patron of that club, and sometimes he's there and stuff. So, and then also my old boss Eric Clapton was there doing the summer, Hyde Park Summer Festival, and I reached out to him through a mutual friend, and I said, hey, I'm going to be in London. You're doing that festival. I would love to join you on stage. And we hadn't been on stage together since 1985. So wow. Eric said, yeah, he would love to have me join him. So there we were in Hyde Park with 75,000 people. and we did two of the songs that I wrote with Eric, Lay Down Sally and the Core, and that was so much fun. Such an incredible cathartic experience to be on stage with him again. And Siobhan was in London at the time too, so we had a meeting with her and my husband and her manager, and we talked about doing this possible tour. I don't know if it was going to be like one of those retro tours or something like that. But my husband said, because he was really around when all this stuff was going on, all this creativity. He helped with his name is Lance Aston, by the way. I'm saying my husband. His name is Lance Aston. He was a child actor and an incredible dancer and singer. He was in the movie Oliver, singing in the soundtrack. I mean, it's just incredibly talented, very creative. So he was with us at the meeting, and he said, why do you guys, instead of just doing this retro kind of, tour, all these dates, why don't you see if you still have that magic and that connection to write? And we both were like, wow, now that is a good idea. What if we could do, write some new music? So we discussed it briefly, and we both realized how much we love the desert here in California, Joshua Tree. We love it up there. So we worked it out, and she had a friend who had an Airbnb right out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, this place is very secluded. And I brought my little studio set up. We met in October, and we just started writing. And we wrote and wrote. And the first song we wrote was our first single, All the Queen's Horses. Yeah. So we still have that magic.
That's incredible. Yeah, no, it was wonderful to see you back together and making new music. I kind of wanted to focus on the operatic side of your singing too. I know that you've explored that. You were part of a show, Pop Star to Opera Star. And how much have you explored singing in that style?
Not much.
Yeah.
There's not, to me, I remember when I was doing the show and they gave me the most difficult arias, but they were all so beautiful and rewarding to sing. But this one song from Madame Butterfly, Un Bel Dì, I used to say to myself, okay, just think of the highest note you possibly can to start singing a song on. And that was that song. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And as a kid, I played violin, so I love classical music, and I could read. Violin here, which is in quite ill repair. It needs some attention. But I enjoyed it, but there was no room for improvisation in opera. And I noticed that right away, because when I veered off the melody slightly in one of the songs during rehearsals. I got verbally, finger slapped. Oh no, we don't do that with opera. So I was like, okay, I'll save that to my, my R&B and soul stuff and rock and roll, because sorry, my nose is bothering me. yeah, I'll save that for, my own music. And I was asked by this one manager who's very influential, said, do you want to do an opera album? And I said, knowing how pernickety the classical world is, some upstart suddenly decides she's going to be an opera singer. They wouldn't take it too well unless I was really serious. And everything I do, I completely immerse myself in it, and I'm completely authentic about it. So I just said, I don't think so, only because it would take a lot of my time to actually do something that's good. I don't just want to jump in and do something that is half-assed. I don't know.
Yeah.
Say ass on your show.
You can.
Ass. Oops. No, I don't have Tourette's, but yeah, I just said, I think it might be a little disingenuous of me, and that's not to say that I don't love doing what I'm doing right now and what I'm experiencing, because as a kid, if you told me I was going to be singing with a 30-piece orchestra every Friday night and singing to supposedly 4 million people live, I wouldn't have believed it, but I would relish the opportunity to do so. The first instrument I wanted to play was harp, and I got to perform with a harpist. I did Ave Maria with just me and a harpist, which was one of the most beautiful moments I can remember. So it was very, very rewarding, but it also was hard. Not that I don't like a challenge, I do. And I proved to myself, damn, you can rise to a challenge. I mean, that was difficult. Those songs, we get the songs on a Sunday, and they were usually in a different language. Luckily, I'm not a language phobe. I spoke Spanish as a kid. I studied it for six years in school, and it's a Latin-based language, so I understood. I could get around the Italian, I could get around the Latin, but when they gave me some German songs, I was like, oh man,
that one's tough.
Couldn't break through that barrier with it. And I had to have like a German translator and somebody who worked with German, because some of the language in this one song, Mein Herr Marquis, from the Fliedermaus or something, I can't remember even. See, that's how devoted I am not to that category of music, although I truly respect it. And what it takes to be able to do it, it's a whole other world. But I remember at the end of the show, during the finale, Alan Fitzmarsh, who was hosting it, after, they announced the winner and we were all there, celebrating, Alan invites me on stage. I was kind of embarrassed, but he invited me to be like front and center with him. He said, Marcella, please tell us you're going to do an opera album. And I was kind of hesitant to go up, and I finally did, and I went, Alan, thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed this, but I can't wait to get back to my room and listen to some James Brown. I like to improvise, so I found it all to be a little too by rote. Of course, you could put your emotion into it. Like when I sang Casta Diva, it was a truly emotional experience for me, and also Un Bel Dì. It was incredibly fulfilling, but I didn't feel like I could give my heart and soul into it as much as I could doing what I feel like I was made to do and what I'm truly best at. So.
See, I always imagined that it would be very emotional to perform, because in a lot of settings, you're actually telling a story. So you would have to be, laying it bare. But at the same time, there's probably so much technique involved that finding the balance would be interesting.
It's both. All of the above. And not only that, it's, it's the audience. That's another factor, being there. But it's just being completely interested and ensconced in what it is you're trying to say through the music, to the words. If you don't have that connection, then you might as well just be singing la 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 la. You could do that with emotion, la 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 la, or la 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 la. There's a big difference. It's just what you're trying to say with these sounds that you make with your body, with your voice, with your mind, with your heart and soul. That's what it's really about.
How have you taken care of your voice, and especially when during touring? Do you have any rituals or anything that you do to take care of your instruments?
So hard. It's really hard because everything you eat, how hydrated you are, the environment that you're in, whether it's like really dry or a lot of moisture, your your mental state, being calm and relaxed, it all has an effect on your voice. At least it does for me. I can't speak for everyone, but it's something that I noticed about myself. So usually on important day shows, I would not talk at all, because talking can actually be harder on the voice than singing, depending on how you're talking.
Whispering is bad, right?
Whispering is not good. Everyone thinks, oh, it's better to whisper, but it's not really, because you're forcing this air through. It's better to talk with proper placement, making sure you're not talking deep down in your throat, so it sounds like that. But yeah, it's better to talk with proper placement and just not as much of it, save your voice for your performance. So yeah, a lot goes into it, a lot of preparation, getting your head there, getting your voice there, warming up, eating and drinking the right things, and doing whatever it is you need to do.
Yeah, no, it's pretty standard, isn't it? Especially the drinking part, because it's kind of hard to sing after a few beers or whiskey sometimes.
Well, and some people do it quite well, but I'm not sure opera singers would.
No.
I realized very early on in my career that when if you're a little bit out of it and you're singing and you think you sound really good, and somebody gives you a tape of what you just did that you thought was so great, and you listen to it and you go, oh my God, I'm never doing that again. And then I vowed, okay, I'm never having a drink or taking anything before I do a show. Because it affects you. It affects your, control and your pitch and your awareness. Yeah. It's me pretty sober and boring, but somebody's got to do it.
You got to do it. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the album Gold and the current project you're working on, because we want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to hear some of the new music you're putting out.
Wet the old whistle. Wow. It's called Gold because I'm celebrating 50 years in music. I can't believe it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks. I'm a 69-year-old woman. I used to not want to tell people my age because, it's a very ageist world that we live in, especially in the music business. But I think generally our society, in the Western society, it's pretty ageist, especially against women. And I've experienced a lot of ageism and sexism throughout my career. This album, like I said, is called Gold because it's celebrating my 50 years in music, but it's also a song on the album, which is a celebration of the special relationship that I have with my husband. Like, he and I are precious. We've been together a long time, and I wanted to write something to dedicate to us, to him. And I started writing this album right after the pandemic hit. Actually, I lied. Right before the pandemic, after Shakespears Sister ended, the tour ended in 2019. It was in November. I came home from the tour and I was beat up. I was so tired. We both caught something from somebody on the road. So I was recovering from that for about a month. I was just in bed. My husband bringing me, food and drink, and I felt terrible. So once I started feeling better, of course, I started writing because that's what I do. And that's what I love to do more than anything. So I just started writing. I wrote a few, like maybe 2 songs, and then the pandemic hit in March. And the last person my husband and I saw before the pandemic, the night before, was Siobhan. We actually went over to her house and helped her set up a recording system that she just got for herself.
Mm.
And we had dinner with her, and we, explained to her how to, use some of the equipment. And the next day it was lockdown. So really the only way for me to deal with what was going on outside was to be creative. And I just, I wrote over 70 songs in the last, since March, it was March the 20th or March the 14th when we officially went down. I wrote over 70 songs. And I'm with a publisher called Peer Music UK, and they were sending me briefs of songs to write for other artists. The guy that signed me to the label said, or not label, sorry, the publisher said, I'm going to help you get a record deal. We're going to, so, remember, we're going to do that. And meanwhile, I'd be getting briefs to write songs for other artists and for TV and film. So I was writing a lot of songs with that in mind, with specific briefs in mind, which are outlines of, the kind of music that music supervisors of each project, they look for a certain thing for the song and for the project, and it's got to be about certain things and blah, blah, blah. So I was writing for that, some of those songs in mind, but then I started writing some songs for myself, and I realized I'm starting to write all these songs for myself. I'm feeling really inspired. It's really the only thing that's keeping me sane.
Mm-hmm.
My country was in such a state, and we had no real leadership. It was
Yep.
a joke. So I just ended up being really creative, and I guess it was, I want to say, at the beginning of this year when I realized, well, I have all these songs, and we're just going to, call them and pick the ones that we feel are the strongest for the album, that all sound, cohesive. And then I decided, well, it can't just be 10 songs. There's like at least 20 songs that I want to be on the album. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. And it's been quite a journey. I've met some incredible people along the way, and I had one of my singles called Alien to Me, mixed by this incredible team called Seventh Heaven Remix and Productions. And they've done mixes for like everyone from Kylie Minogue to Ariana Grande and lots of people. So I met them through mutual friends online, and they did a mix of it for me. And last Thursday, and I have no idea what's going to happen this week, but it entered this chart in Music Week magazine at number 29. And I thought, oh, well, it's going to drop out. And the next week it went to number 22. And now this past Thursday, it went to number 7.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That's
It's
amazing.
in commercial, it's in Music Week magazine, which is an industry standard magazine that keeps track of all the charts. And this is a commercial pop chart. So yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm just honored and flattered that it's up there. And now my album Gold is available to order on my site at marcelladetroit.rocks. And every week my husband has been adding new songs, songs that people have never heard before, or demos of songs that people never heard before. There are over 180 songs up there, actually 240 songs up there right now. Some of them you can buy, some of them you can just listen to. So there's even some free downloads.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's...
So, and you can order my album there. Oh, we've got a kitty.
Yeah, she decided she couldn't stay away.
She wants eyes.
She's got green eyes, 2 green eyes and a white.
What's her name?
Lady Mew Mew. I was going through a Lady Gaga phase when I named her.
Oh, Lady Mew Mew, I like it. Hello, lady. I used to have a white cat just like that, but she had one green eye and one blue eye.
Really? What
Yeah.
was her name?
Her name was Sassy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a cat person for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so the website obviously has many songs continuously being added to it still.
Yeah. Lots of songs. Sorry, I missed what was the last thing you said?
Oh, sorry. I said that the website will still have plenty of songs being added to it currently.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's 240 up there right now, and there's still more that we're going to upload. But I've also during this time, I've also written an autobiography.
Oh,
So my
wonderful.
autobiography is up there. My new album, all these new songs. There's a T-shirt. Um, people, I've had loads of people already. We did like a pre-order where we were offering like a package deal where you get the album, you get the T-shirt, you get the autobiography, you get a Zoom chat with me. Um, but we've discontinued that pre-order thing. But people can still buy. They can still get the album and they can get the T-shirt and the autobiography. So it's all up there.
It sounds like a must for all of the fans out there. So I'm glad we were able to get people to your website. And of the songs on the new album, I'd like to play one of them on the show. Do you have one in specific that you would have in mind that you'd like me to play?
Well, you could play Alien to Me. Do you have a copy of that?
Not yet.
Yeah. Oh, not yet. Okay, well, I can send you, I could probably send you a WAV or an MP3, whatever you prefer.
MP3 is fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll email nicely too. Wonderful.
Great.
Thank you. So before we wrap things up, I was also going to ask you one last question. Have you ever been up to Canada?
Yeah, well, I'm from Detroit, and I used to go to Windsor all the time. It was just across the river.
Yeah.
But also we'd go to Toronto. But I've toured. I've played in a few spots like Edmonton.
That's where I'm from.
Oh, really?
I'm
Is
in
that where you
Edmonton.
are now?
Yes.
Wow, I remember being there in the winter, and it was really cold.
It's brutal. I always ask myself, why do I stay here year after year? It's
Yeah.
got its own magic to it.
It's in your home. It's your home, so it's in your blood, right?
That's right.
Oh,
But yeah.
that's cool.
So you did a lot of touring up here?
Sorry?
Did a lot of touring up here?
Not a lot, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked up there with Eric, with Clapton. With Shakespears Sister, I believe we came to Toronto, but with Eric, we went to Vancouver, and Edmonton, and let's see, where else did we go? Well, I've been to Montreal. Absolutely beautiful. I love it. Absolutely love it. I did the jazz festival there with my friend Corky Siegel, who has played there a few times. And yeah, it's beautiful. I'd like to spend more time up there.
Come up next summer, maybe. That'd be nice.
Yeah, I'm a summer kind of girl. I love fall. Fall is a nice time. And spring, but winter, not so much.
Do you get the change of the seasons and the leaves and such in California during the fall?
Not quite as notably as you do there. I mean, we do get, like yesterday we had a rainstorm here. It was raining really, really hard. It's very early for the rains to start. But we get rain, and our coldest day would probably be like a spring day for you there.
Yeah.
I got spoiled here, really spoiled.
Well, I'll have to come visit California sometime.
Yeah,
one day.
you should. It's something to experience.
I want to thank you so much, Marcella, for taking the time to talk to me today. And you're looking fantastic. So, I mean, I can't wait to share this episode. It'll probably be out before the end of October. So what I'll do is
let me know so I can share.
Sure. And yeah, I'll tag you and everything. I can shoot you an email the week of as well.
Cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, I'm very grateful. I hope you take care.
Likewise, you too. Take care, be well, and be safe.
Will do. All right.
All
Bye.
right. Bye. Say goodbye to Lady Mew Mew.